welcome back to the next episode of the Sensible Mama podcast. I am Polina Westcott, your host. Today joining us is Taylor Mack. She is a doula down in Florida. She's also a childbirth educator. I'm super excited to have her on. We have no idea what we're going to talk about today, so Taylor, tell us a bit about yourself and we'll take it from there.
I mean, like you said, I'm a doula, labor support coach, also childbirth educator. I generally work one-on-one with moms, providing about like 9 hours of education, you could say. And then also part of my services, I do, of course, one-on-one coaching with mom and her partner, and also birth planning. We do labor support at whatever given location, and postpartum visit, and about 1 to 2 hours after postpartum.
Wow.
Lots of stuff, yeah.
That's quite some service. You know, it's funny, just on the subject of doula-ing. I don't know what other misconceptions there are about the subject, but when I first got pregnant, I was like, a doula is a person that rich people hire. This is my idea. This is wrong.
Okay.
This was my idea. It's a person that rich people hire because mom wants her hand held. And that was the extent of what I thought a doula was, because they just, I don't know, that's what I thought. And then I accidentally had a doula. She was technically the birth assistant for my midwife, but she also had training as a doula. And there was one point in my first labor where I needed a doula. I did not need my husband. My husband is the greatest birth support partner ever.
Yeah.
But I needed a very specific service
Yeah.
in that moment where I was like moments away from transition, and I was like, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yep.
I'm over it. It had been like 20 something hours, and I was like
Done.
ready to just peace out. Whatever that means in that moment, like I didn't want to go to the hospital. Like you can't quit because you just can't quit.
You got to go through it.
But I was like, my head was out of the game as far as it could be. And she like got in front of my face and she was like, look, girl, you're the one that's going to make this happen.
That's right.
I can't do this for you. And she gave me this speech, and it was the proper amount of loving, gentle, friend.
Yes.
And like real talk, a little bit of a smack in the face, like, you need to get your act together because that's what's going to make us get through this.
Right.
And it was like a little thing, and I was like, oh, all right, let's
okay, I'll do it, I guess.
Yeah, but it was exactly what I needed to hear and exactly the way I needed to hear it.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, oh, no, a doula is something very, very special. It is not just a rich person's hand holder.
No.
It is every mama's support system. Like, midwives catch babies.
Yes.
Another doula friend said midwives catch babies and doulas hold mothers.
Yes. And that is the thing about it that I get across to moms is I am there for you. I'm not even maybe postpartum visit, I'll come and see babe, but like even when I do a postpartum visit, I'm coming to see you. We're coming to process your delivery regardless of how it went or whatever, and I'm your person, right? And so it's interesting that you go over like, I hit a point where I was like, I'm done, And one of the parts of my education, particularly that I learned from Bradley Method, is there are 3 very evident emotional signposts that a mother goes through. And it doesn't matter how many kids you've had. It literally doesn't matter. Like my sister-in-law, who actually did a podcast with as well, there is the last emotional signpost, which is self-doubt and confusion. A mom is like, I don't know, I can't do it. You ask her a question, I don't know, right? And that is the most important emotional signpost because baby is literally right around the corner. You're almost done. You're at the very last stretch, And so my sister with her 4th kid, she is just, a boss. She's a literal boss. She hit that emotional signpost and she knows, childbirth educator here, la la la. And when she communicated the I don't knows to me, I'm like, Kristen, you know what that means? That means he's right there. Let's go, And so, I think it's a really beautiful thing that, a doula doesn't necessarily, I work with so many different people and you don't know the attitude or the vibe or the flow necessarily of the individual. So It's like when you get the words that are needed, when the words come to you, it is genuinely exactly what a mom needs to hear
Mhm.
at that time, you know? And sometimes it makes more sense for her to hear them from her husband. And sometimes the husband isn't totally committed at that point, right? And that's why, even through my education, I highly encourage when I take on a mom that the husband join because, there's unfamiliar territory for husbands, specifically for first time moms. What's happening? What's going on? Like when a mom hits this emotional signpost of self doubt and confusion, oh no, trouble. No, it's not.
It's scary. It's
Can be.
scary. Well, it's scary for the mom because
Sure.
you're like, "What's happening?"
Right.
The first time you do anything is scary.
Yeah.
Labor in particular, you got the hormones that are going,
Yes.
you have fears that may be there,
Yeah.
and then, it's physically there's discomfort, so there's a lot
Sure.
happening, but for the husband, I remember talking to my husband Nick about it, and he was like, there's a helplessness,
Yes.
where like I don't know how to make the pain go away. I don't know how to
Mhm.
take the fear away, and that makes you feel helpless. And for guys, that's hard. I mean, that's hard for
Yeah.
girls too, but for guys, it's especially hard because it's their role to be the
Yes.
protector, to be the provider, to like have their stuff together,
Yeah. Exactly.
And in that moment where you're like, I can't do this,
Mhm.
what can he do?
Right. Particularly, like I said, the education, it gets the husband's head wrapped around the capabilities of a female body.
Hmm.
Really gives them the certainty that the way that pregnancy, labor, delivery goes is exactly how it's supposed to go. It shows the husband and gives him certainty, knowledge, and control and prediction over his wife laboring and delivering, right? And so when he can hold his position in space and have that type of control, he can support her that much more, you know?
Hmm.
So when I deliver coaching, one-on-one in-person coaching with my moms, I dad's there, man. Like we're working together, we're working on positions. I want you to understand the rhythm of a ritual that a mom will implement, and I want you to flow with her. And when that contraction ends, and when you observe her and it starts again, I want you to jump right back into it. The same exact pattern that she implemented before, because that is the thing that is successful, that is helping her get through it one at a time, you know?
Hmm.
So those are the things that he can do. He can be
Right.
there, he can love her, and just be that comforting, even like putting a hand on her shoulder, you know?
Yeah, it's incredible the power. So I'm a little bit obsessed with the topic of oxytocin,
Yes, ma'am.
right?
Yeah.
It's so for anybody who's unfamiliar, oxytocin is the hormone that is produced in a lot of scenarios, but specifically during labor that actually starts each contraction
Mm-hmm.
and makes it go through. So the more oxytocin, the smoother labor progresses.
That's
The
right.
less oxytocin,
The tougher.
the more trouble.
Yeah.
Oxytocin is called the love hormone because it's also produced during lovemaking
Yeah.
or during actions such as hugging or kissing or snuggling or
Mhm.
some say even eating a piece of chocolate, like
Heck yeah.
those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
And I remember like it just feels right. Like at one point I got out of the pool, the birth pool, and I was like, I need to lean on someone, and that
Mhm.
someone has to be my husband in this
Yeah.
moment. And I was swaying with him, and I was like he was just on the same wavelength, which if I give any advice to the husbands is, you obviously you guys are together and you know each other.
Right.
Like get in her head in the
Yeah.
sense of like be on the wavelength. Like
Yeah.
if I don't know how else to describe it. Maybe you have better words. You do this for a living.
I'm
Like
Yeah, it is. It generally is that. You observe her. You observe
mhm,
the way that she flows. You observe the way that she moves. You know the things that calm her down. You know the things that put her night night. You know all of these things, right? And maybe you may attempt to apply some of those methods while she's in labor and she's like, no, don't do that. Okay. So that wasn't successful. Let's jump into something else, right?
mhm,
If she approaches after you're observing her and you see her move, let's say from all fours on the bed, right? She's done with that. She's getting up. She wants to stand up. She wants to, help baby descend a little bit more, whatever it may be to help cope with the contractions. Be there around her space and be in her space, but very gently
mhm,
be in her space and flow with her. That's really what
right.
I'm looking at. And so, even with the coaching, we practice that, because like I said, some dads are just not like, well, like what though? Okay, yeah, I know the body's perfectly designed to do it, but what do I do when I witness my wife in the middle of
This
it.
is interesting. So for people who do not have the luxury of being in Florida and having your coaching 101 services,
Hmm. Yeah.
um, what is something that like that this is fascinating to me outside of labor, like let's say just in everyday life, how can a husband practice that? Like what would you suggest as like a practical assignment or like a drill or something for this?
Honestly, why don't you dance with your wife? Why don't you slow dance with your wife? We're not even talking about like, okay, we'll match her energy, match her flow, but we're talking about the production of oxytocin. And
Mhm.
maybe the mom isn't necessarily like a dancer. No one has to be a professional dancer, right? But you can make her laugh. You can dance with her. You can be there for her. You can give her massages at night. You can massage her feet, right? And it's interesting that we're talking about this because when I meet with parents to be or second time moms or whatever it may be, one of the things that I tell them, regardless of where they're laboring, it could be home birth, birth center, yada, yada, hospital. But I always tell the husband and the wife, look, this is how we produce oxytocin. Okay. We've all heard it. You know, to get the baby out, you got to do the thing that gets the baby in. And most people,
Mm,
when they think of that as like obviously sex, right? No, yes, men's semen has prostaglandins, which can help to soften and efface the cervix. However, it's the oxytocin that's produced when you do the lovemaking, right?
right.
That's what we're producing. That essentially is going to get those contractions started and it's going to get them going good and strong. And that's what you need to dilate the cervix. So
Right.
when I'm instructing parents, I'm particularly like, great, you call me when your contractions are 10 minutes apart, lasting 1 minute for 1 hour. However, before I arrive, I want you to communicate loving words to each other. And I want you to love each other. And maybe, like I said earlier, you might dive into trying to massage your wife's shoulders while she's experiencing contractions. And she's like, no, I don't like that. Okay,
Mhm.
try a different attempt. While
Mhm.
simultaneously, I go, Mom, you need to be able to communicate freely and with kindness
Yeah.
because fear and stress and worry are not going to be those things that help you produce oxytocin. But when you're
Yes.
communicating loving words, those will, you know?
Yeah, and that looks different for everybody. Like
Definitely.
you mentioned, that the mom might push you away. I remember so hip squeezes. Hip squeezes are everything in my book.
Dude, right?
Like
Yes,
there
they
is something oh man. I would like lean. I had my little I figured out a weird position. Didn't really make sense. It was kind of awkward on the couch, but it was working for me. And my
are. That's
husband,
it.
every time a contraction would start, he'd come over and he'd squeeze my hips. And it was like oh,
Heaven.
I don't know how just
Yeah,
it's wonderful. Wonderful.
totally.
And that was a big baby I was pushing out. He had a lot, he needed the room anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and then I remember with my second, I did not need any hip squeezes. I labored almost the entire time on the
Wow.
toilet, actually.
Wow.
So
Heyo, that's
like
great. That's great.
someday I'll have to do a reenactment video of my second birth because I was like throwing my husband into the washing the washing machine and the sink and the wall and the poor guy like
He was there
that's
for it.
he was like like he doesn't suffer from I don't know if YouTube lets me say DV
Oh, yeah.
but
Yeah.
except when I'm in labor his hands get bruised like the poor guy he suffers I don't know anyway
Hap-
he's great
Yeah.
he's a
He's a
trooper.
great guy.
But at one point, like we moved from the toilet because baby was coming faster than I wanted because the pool wasn't filled. It was a whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And we moved over to the living room and I'm sitting on the ball like this. And I think it was my husband, maybe it was my mom. I don't know. Somebody decided to do a hip squeeze and I was, get off me. Like,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
It was awful in that moment. And I just like, mm-mm.
Yeah.
And I like waved my hand like this. I'm like, like
Yeah.
that is not what I need right now. And your body knows. You got to listen to it.
That's
And
right.
and everybody around, nobody was offended by that. Do you know what I mean? Like
Of course
everybody
not.
was like, oh, okay, not this thing.
Right.
Let's do something else. And it
Hmm.
was totally like smooth. There was no animosity. It's not like, ugh, why isn't she letting me help or anything like that? Which
That's
which
not
I
working.
understand. Yeah, like
Yeah.
like I understand like if you want to sometimes when you help somebody and then they don't accept your help, that can be kind of off-putting,
Sure. This is a
But like
different case.
this is totally different. And when everybody is on the same page, your entire birth team is like, we know what's happening. We
Hmm.
trust the process. We trust her body. We
That's
trust her
right.
intuition. And everything just kind of
Flows.
goes. And then, like, literally 15 minutes later, there was a baby in my arms.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because, I mean, generally when baby is still up high a bit, a good amount, um, yeah, counter pressure on the lower back is fantastic. And some moms don't experience lower back pain, which I'm like, that's amazing because I had immense lower back pain, and we'll get into that later. But so it, from the sounds of it, it sounds like baby was totally engaged. And here you are with your pelvis, and here comes someone squeezing the baby while he's mid your pelvis. And it's like, no, that's not right. You
No,
know?
to everyone's defense, I was adamant.
Yeah.
I was in severe protest that
Yeah.
the baby was coming, because I was right here and the pool was right here, and the pool was like this full and I wasn't allowed to get in yet.
Nope.
And I was like, I am not having this baby outside of the pool. It's not
I
happening.
love it. Yeah.
And my midwife was like,
Yeah, you
that's
are.
cute. Okay. Uh,
So
He's
good.
like, I'm not saying you're wrong,
Sorry.
but let's see what happens,
Right.
you know?
Oh, that's great.
And I was like, no, no, no. And so people thought I still had hours to go, because I was acting like I still had hours to go.
Yeah.
And so the cat, like, I understand again, like, everybody was totally on the same page and they were just trying to help. And I was like, but it didn't feel good. And so I
Yeah.
was like, get off of me.
Yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
happens. I mean, my labor was 17 hours, and I basically established a whole birth team. It included my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, obviously my midwife, James, my husband, and my friend Kitty Magnus. And I basically told each of them, I'm like, look, I'm not in labor yet, and I want you there now. However, in the event that I don't want you there, I'm going to tell you. And you can't be like butthurt about it, essentially. And they're like, got it, no problem. I
Mhm.
did end up needing every single one of them. And eventually, my prenatal chiropractor, Jenny, just happened to arrive, gave me an adjustment in the middle of my labor, which was unbelievable and unbelievably helpful. But just to piggyback on what you were talking about, counter pressure and all that jazz and not liking it, that had been working for me also. And I remember laying on my side in the bed, and my husband came up to me and I go, my back. And he comes in so hard that I literally almost left my body and like went into the ceiling, I swear. So, and that's another thing that I practice during coaching with husbands. I'm like, this is the amount of counter pressure that we're looking for. Mom may say more, less, la, la, la. And when you communicate more or less, mom, I need you to communicate it in a gentle way. More, instead of, which sometimes it can be hard to control that, but we're looking for loving words to be communicated. But I give both of them the reality. I get mom in all fours, and we look at that counter pressure and exactly where it can be. We also do other counter pressures elsewhere, but it's a pretty popular one for sure, but not long lasting sometimes. It's like
Yeah.
it's not needed sometimes.
And then you were saying, like, you used a word, and I can't remember what word you used, but like the sort of means by which the mom makes it through every contraction. Like, she goes into a sort of rhythm, or she does a certain
Ritual.
thing. Ritual, that's the
Yes,
word you
this
used.
is, I can give credit to Penny Simkin, which is another midwife that girl, thank you for everything. You know what I'm saying? But yes, Penny talks about relaxation, rhythm, and ritual, and how these correlate with each other. Obviously, during the first stage of labor, mom's job is to relax, while her birth team is there to help implement motion, make sure she pees every 2 hours so we don't have discomfort from a full bladder, making sure she keeps her energy up by consuming small snacks, some food, water, hydrating, electrolytes, yada, yada. But in terms of relaxation, I love this from Penny because it's so true. There are two types of relaxation. There is passive relaxation and active relaxation, right? More in early labor, passive relaxation is more real because mom can lay down. She can do menial tasks that can keep her distracted to get through these contractions. And as she progresses, she hits that moment where passive relaxation isn't working anymore. And she needs to be a little bit more active, like swaying or rocking or chanting or vocalizing in some aspect, right? But some type of motion. Okay. And then we get into ritual. This is so interesting. Some moms will come up with a ritual mid labor by themselves, and some have trouble, right? But Penny tells a story about a mom that was laboring in the bathtub, and she just started, beginning of each contraction, she would hit the side of the tub, boom, boom, and she would be able to count how many hits it would take to finish off that contraction or before it started tapering off, right? And that was a ritual for her. And it helped her get through every contraction. So when I meet with moms and dads, I talk about this obviously, but I more so speak to the husband about it because he is the guardian of oxytocin for our mom. And he needs to be aware and observant of these potential rituals that this mother will come up with instinctually, right? And so, of course, I tell moms as well, like, if you can't come up with one, I can help you, right? And there was another one really quickly. There was another one also from Penny Simkin where the wife was sitting in the lap of her husband and he had a hole in his shirt. This is so silly. He had a hole in his shirt, and every contraction that would come about, she would gaze through this hole. But he wasn't thinking, he didn't know that she was looking through a hole. You know what I mean? And at one point, he moved and the hole went away. She said, "No, I need your shirt," you know? So it kind of just reveals the importance of like, this is how she's directing her attention. This is how she's directing her focus and coping with each contraction. So that's why I stress heavily on this relaxation, rhythm, and ritual, because ritual and rhythm combined is like, it's fabulous. Every mother does it. It's wild. It's very, very
It's
cool.
really cool. Yeah, I remember during my first, I would like dig my thumbs into my thighs and massage down. Like
Yeah.
that was the motion. It was like this.
That's so cool.
And I was like, I feel like a crazy person. I feel like I'm like
I
just like
have
some
to do it
ant in-
though.
but it felt right and
That's
it
so
got me
cool.
through. And I was like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. You don't
Yeah.
really quite like you don't have time to think about it when you're in the
No.
middle of a contraction. You're like, I'm doing a crazy thing, you know?
Yes,
It just
exactly.
happens. But it's really, really interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I mean, yeah, it could be one of the things I implement as well from Bradley Method is basic relaxation breathing technique as well. I implement that with moms way earlier on. However, with a little variation. So on the exhale, we're letting out a nice slow moan, right? So I get them to practice that. And I communicate, I want this to be second nature to you because just only based off my experience. I did my studying. I wish I did way more education before I had my son, but I thought I knew how to relax. Nah, homie, I did not know how to relax. It was really difficult. So
So I remember somebody was like, you need to practice breathing. And I'm like,
I know how to
oh,
breathe.
okay. Do I also need to practice blinking?
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
exactly. Yes.
But the truth of the matter is, this specific type, like we breathe um by habit.
Yeah.
It's not done under our
Consciously.
own sort of control.
Right.
But when you actually learn how to manage your own breathing at first, I
Mhm.
was like, I'm hyperventilating. I can't, do I not know how to breathe? What's happening?
Yeah.
You know? And I remember practicing, like I watched some videos, some I think it was Bridget Tyler,
Oh, okay.
the Built to Birth class.
Mhm.
She had some short videos. She was like, "This is one way that you can breathe," and I was like, "Oh, I'll practice it." So she has like the video where she like counts out the time so you can practice, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like,
Jeez. Oh my
and
god.
it like dawned on me. I'm like, no, this is actually something that I legitimately need to like get good at, which is so
Yeah,
weird to say. Like, who needs to practice something like breathing?
I know.
And so I learned that when I was pooping, actually, was
There
the
you
best
go.
time to practice. And I would sit on the toilet and I was like, I feel super silly. Thank goodness nobody is in here with
Yeah.
me. And I would breathe my poop out. And I was like,
Yes. Brilliant.
this works.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Absolutely. Yeah. And, I check in with moms. You doing the basic relaxation breathing technique? You doing the basic relaxation breathing technique? Like every single lesson I deliver, every time I speak with them, text them, whatever it may be, because you can forget and not do it, right? I also have moms implement just getting used to vocalization. When you're in the
Hmm.
car, I want you to moo, right? And particularly like when I go over vocalization in that aspect, I'm referring to these bodies being mammalian. We are mammals. Yeah. And
Hmm.
so we also have animals that are mammals as well. Right. So, and I usually ask, have you ever observed a mammal deliver a baby? You know, and how they go off to a nice dark place, nice and quiet, and they emit these low moos essentially. Right. So I have moms practice that. I'm like, you might be embarrassed. So fine, just go ahead and do it in the car. But I'm going to ask you to moo while you're in labor. Okay. Particularly the first stage when we're really trying to relax because it is a major pain relief to vocalize. basically.
It is.
Oh my God.
It's amazing.
My midwife.
Yeah,
is
I was like,
excellent.
I watched videos. I remember watching some birth videos. You know, the mom is sitting in the tub and she's going, "Oh, there's a baby," and I was like, "Wow, really? That's a
Damn.
thing?" I don't know who these moms are
Yeah.
or what they're on. Like maybe nothing.
Oh,
No, more power to you. If you can have that level of calm and quiet and serenity, more power to you.
yes.
Not me.
Not me,
No.
dude. Me either.
I need to throw my husband around a little bit
Yeah.
and I need to like have some buffalo grunting sounds
Heck yeah.
happening.
And when I talk about my delivery for my son, like, it was pretty incredible. I mean, I pushed for 4 hours. It was gnarly, right?
Mm.
Totally, absolutely exhausted. I actually was a day before 42 weeks. And I had a midwife, like you know, and I would have been obligated to go to the hospital. And this was in the middle of COVID. And I had a
Mhm.
massive birth team. And basically, I would have been only able to bring my midwife. So I literally did everything in the book to go into labor. And the one thing that worked was sitting on an exercise ball and rocking back and forth aggressively. And so my midwife instructed me, you need to rock through the contractions. So here's the thing about it. I was awake all day. Then at 6 p.m., I thought it was a great idea to try and initiate labor. So I got on the exercise ball. I was officially in labor by 10:30. I labored, and my son was born 2:15 in the afternoon the next day. Awful.
Mm.
Awful. Ladies, please go to bed. Please get your sleep. Please get your food, because that's awful. You just, like, if you want to initiate labor, like, wake up in the morning after a great night's sleep and initiate labor, if that's what you're
Right.
looking for, right? Or if you need to. Like, for me, I really needed to. But when I was in the second stage and pushing my son out, I was like, hell no, done, right? And this was when my son was crowning, which everybody's probably heard of the Ring of Fire, which that is when his head starts coming out and your vagina starts stretching, which it is perfectly designed to do that with the most unique tissues, unlike any other place on your body. However, with my birth team surrounding me, I was like, no. And they go, yes. And I go, ooh. And I don't know who I was, dude. I don't know what I turned into, but it was every single instinctual thing necessary for me to cross that finish line. Seriously. My husband was like, you went primal.
So
100%
you're
primal.
describing exactly how it
Are we
felt
best
when
friends?
I pushed out my first baby. I had been in labor for 23 hours. And my midwife was like, "Your bladder is full, and we're gonna if you can't pee, we need to do catheter, blah blah blah." And
No.
I was like, "I can't do this, whatever." Like same no,
Yeah.
right?
No.
So they started the catheter process, right? And I was like, "Oh, this is not happening." Which
Not
honestly,
okay.
like, it was a bit of a nightmare, but I'm kind of glad it happened because I think it pushed me over the edge into that, like, the feeling of just necessity
Man.
of me
Yeah.
doing it myself. You know what
Sure.
I
I
mean?
totally get that.
And I felt the ring of fire, and she had like she did this wonderful thing where she had a warm water in a bowl with a washcloth. I was out of the pool at this point because I couldn't push in the pool with him for some reason, just didn't work out, whatever.
Right.
And she was just kind of gently pouring a little bit of water right onto basically his head, right?
Yes.
Which for me gave me like a focal point of where to push. It was
Mm-hmm.
perfect.
Yes.
And something came over me where I was like, this catheter idea needs to literally cease to exist in the most violent, aggressive way.
Wow.
I like pushed it and I was like, "Rah!" Like I don't yell. I'm not the kind of
I
person
mean,
who
I
yells.
know.
I don't know what a loud Polina even sounds like, you
Sure.
know? And like you said, it was like this feral, primal, like
100%.
inside my
Yep.
something came over me, and my midwife was like, "You roared the baby out."
Heck yeah, man.
And he came out and his head was born and his eyes were open and he looked around and he started crying before his body even was born. And I was like, all right. And
Amazing.
all of a sudden, everything didn't, like, none of the pain, none of the exhaustion, none of the
Nothing.
any of the anything mattered
Yeah.
anymore. And I was like, I just made a baby.
Yes.
Like, this is the greatest thing ever.
That's literally like me too. My midwife actually utilized olive oil,
Ooh.
right? And I think it's very funny because me personally, maybe TMI, but I am really sensitive down there. I'm like,
Mhm.
don't be rough. You know what I mean? So when my midwife was doing cervical checks, like way like you're due, you know what I mean? No cervical checks prior. But when she was doing them, I'm like, please, please be gentle. She's like, hun, I've been doing this for like 15 years. I know what I'm doing. And plus, she's got the tiniest hands you've ever seen, the most perfect midwifery hands, right? Anyway, super sensitive. So when I was delivering my son and she would pour olive oil over my vagina, I was like, oh my God, that felt so good. And later
Wow.
on, she was like, you are so weird. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, most moms hate the olive oil, but you love it. I'm like, what's not to like? It was so cooling and refreshing. And similarly, also, like you were receiving the hot compress, my midwife would put her finger as she was stretching me, which is
Mhm.
essential in terms of bringing blood to the area to make the vagina and its tissues more elastic and adapt better while the baby is crowning. She would put her finger. She's like, Taylor, I need you to push right here. And I'm like,
Mhm.
thank you. That's exactly what I needed. It was perfect.
It's so funny.
Unbelievable.
And it's not something that I knew was even a thing that you could do.
Yeah,
Like I don't know, like obviously you're pushing out a baby. Like where else would you be
of
pushing? You know
course.
what I mean?
Right.
But something about that physical orientation point, which for me was the water. It was like it was like this trickle of water and I was like,
That's it.
don't ever stop that.
That's
I
awesome.
need that as like a exit
Focal point.
here,
Yeah,
like arrows right
that's
here.
right.
Like
That's right.
yeah.
Exactly, man. Like, yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. But that definitely gave me the certainty when I started pushing, for sure, on what to do. Because that's the thing about it, man. Particularly for first time moms. What are you doing? What are you doing? What prediction do you have? What control do you have? Do you know what I mean? And I feel
Mhm.
like that's really why I jumped into childbirth education. Just realizing, like, holy crap, how many moms are so uneducated on how capable their bodies are, how perfectly designed their bodies are, and what to do. You know what I mean? So, for me particularly, like I had helped my sister deliver her second kid at Tampa General Hospital, which they favor natural births, which is awesome. That was probably the most miraculous thing I'd ever seen. And I couldn't speak about it for days because I would just sob. I would just cry. And after experiencing that, I decided that I definitely wanted to deliver naturally. And moving on from there, I helped an old friend of mine deliver her babe in a birthing center. But during that, before she went into labor, I asked, I was like, are you gonna like read anything? Are you gonna like do anything? Are you gonna study anything? She's like, nah, I'm just gonna do it, you know? And I mean, whatever, I know that like there obviously are moms on the planet or women on the planet that just do it, you know? And so for her in particular, it was a tough time. It did
Mhm.
not end in a natural delivery. Unfortunately, it ended in a C-section. But I mean, that was kind of eye-opening for me also. I was like, man, like I feel like I don't know anything about this. And I definitely want to do it. I've always had a plan to do it. So I studied Bradley method for my pregnancy. And right now, my education is based on the works of a mixture of Bradley method, May Gaskin, and Penny Simkin. And it's basically I've studied, and I'm like, this is invaluable data. This is data that mothers should have before they deliver. Like very simple things too, in terms of how can we help the mother dilate? Laughter. The correlation between your bottom and your perineal muscles in connection with your mouth, jaw, and throat. And then the relaxation of it. Just
Mhm.
different things like this that are like, who would have thought? It's incredible and
Yeah.
brilliant, you know?
It's really amazing. Like to the degree that you hear various different methods. Some people do like the
Yeah.
horse mouth to like relax.
Raspberries.
For me, what I did was when I was going to bed. This is probably like third trimester. I watched some video or read some book or something, and I would practice sitting in bed. And I would say, okay, I'm going to relax the top of my body down. So I would relax my forehead, which
Mhm.
right now, like anybody listening, just relax your forehead and see how that feels.
It's weird, man.
It's so weird how much tension we hold. Like
Yes.
it's nuts, right?
Yes.
And then I would relax my cheeks and then my jaw and my lips and my neck and my shoulders until every single muscle was relaxed.
Yeah.
And that is not normal,
No.
particularly for if you're already a mom,
Yeah.
you are like ready to go all the time. You're holding yourself tense, man. I
Yeah.
promise you, like even if you're not pregnant, try this because it feels really good.
Amazing. Yeah.
But because I had practiced that up to the point of delivery,
Mhm.
when it came time to deliver, instinctually, sometimes I would still tense up. And my husband would notice,
Yeah.
and he would like take a deep breath himself
Yeah.
because I told him, if you keep telling me to breathe,
He'll
I will
kill you.
punch you in the face.
Yeah.
So he was like, we had an agreement that if I hear him take a deep breath, that's my reminder that I need to
Yes.
take a deep breath.
Perfect.
Which worked perfectly for us. Maybe that's not a good system. I told that to another mom, and she was like, if my husband was just breathing in my ear, I would also punch him. And I'm like, you know what? You guys work out
Each
your
their
own
own.
system.
That's right.
You know, whatever.
Yeah.
But it worked for me, and I would take a deep breath, and I would do that like intentionally. Let go of the tension in
Right.
the shoulders. Let my fingers, instead of being like this, let them relax.
Right.
The amount of difference that makes in pain management
Yes.
is unreal.
Yes, absolutely. It definitely, and it's just like the breathing that we were talking about. Oh, I already know how to breathe. Yes, you
Mhm.
do. However, when you are focusing on that, or maybe a mom decides to utilize the method of counting their breaths or focusing on implementing that rhythmic pattern of breathing and then out, again, over and over, right? It gives you a focal point. Again, you know what I mean? So, and then some moms find success like you in relaxing every single part of their body one by one. Right when the contraction starts hitting, you start implementing it off the bat. And then you put the focus here and here and here, wherever it may be that you need to implement that type of relaxation. Where I tell moms, you're literally a dead person in the bed. Like, that's what I want to see. And probably a lot of moms have seen like different reels where moms are hitting that point of transition during the first stage of labor where they're achieving 7 to 10 centimeters and they look like this in between their contractions, right? I've had one husband one time where the mom would hit a contraction, ouch, ouch, ouch. Then it would taper off. She would immediately pass out. He's like, is she okay?
That was me.
Yeah. Well, she okay? I'm like, of course she's okay. This is her only time to sleep. We be very
Yes.
quiet. We don't bother her. And we let the body do it exactly what it's supposed to do.
So the crazy thing, if
Conservation of
people, if they've seen my other episodes, they probably heard me say this, but it was with my first kid. My second was a totally different. It was go 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 nonstop. I didn't have time to micro nap.
Man. Yeah.
But with my first, I was in the tub, the birth pool, and I'm like lying like this, right? And I'd have a contraction, I'd breathe, I'd relax, I'd do my thing. My husband was behind me. He was like holding my hand or rubbing my shoulders, giving me water or whatever. And then I would just, like, just limp fall back. And I remember I opened my eyes one time and I was like, oh, whoa. How long was I out? Like, I'm not even exaggerating when I said,
Wow.
like, I thought I was out for like at least 20 minutes, maybe more. Right.
Yes.
And he was like, that was like 30 seconds. So I'm like, haha, okay. But how long was I out? He's like, no, literally, that was like
Yeah.
maybe 30 seconds. And I was like, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
That was like the best nap of my life.
It's incredible how quickly you basically go into a coma after a
Mhm.
contraction starts tapering off. And that is the body's way of conserving energy and building energy,
And it works.
Exactly. So that's why I instruct dads like, look, when that's happening, just be quiet. Let her sleep.
Mhm.
Don't do anything. Don't touch her. Just don't do anything. Just be exactly how you are and let her experience it and observe her. You will see when the contraction starts coming on again. I've had multiple moms that I've needed to coach where she's laying off the side of the bed and I'm holding her like this and she's asleep and I'm just looking at her, waiting, waiting, waiting. She goes, and I go, here it comes. Let's go
Mhm.
right off the top, right? Let's get that deep breath right off the top, right? Because it's like, it's kind of startling. You're like, oh shit, I'm still here, and you need
Yeah.
that guidance right off the bat. That's literally what I needed. So
Yeah.
we just implement that. But yeah, man, like relaxing and the sleep in between is invaluable for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did the same
And I was
exact thing.
talking with my best friend was on the podcast this last week, and she was talking about how like in the hospital they had her walking, lunging, squatting, hopping
Great.
on one foot, doing the hokey pokey, like the whole rigmarole.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, like it was cool to like keep busy and stuff,
Mhm.
but with her second baby that she had at home,
Mhm.
the midwife was like, oh, okay, go sleep.
Yeah.
Like it's so different.
It is.
And
It really depends on the circumstances. Like I was saying earlier, like if you're a first time mom, I mean, you said that she was a second time mom, right? So, I mean, it really depends on the time. It depends on how like her first labor went also. But we had one mom that we didn't really know yet how dilated she was, but we weren't really sure if she was in active labor or not and whatever. So before my midwife checked the cervical dilation. She kind of told her, she's like, look, we may have to have you go night-night because you need to sleep because you're not going to make it through active labor. And, well, to our surprise, she was 8 centimeters dilated. It was like, my midwife looked at me. She's like, 8 centimeters. I'm like, what? And then the husband's like, what? I'm like, it was really unbelievable. You really never know. So when it comes to your care provider or whoever it may be that is instructing you to do whatever, man, it's important. You go night-night, dude. Like, you got to go night-night and go to sleep so you can have enough energy to, like I said, get through that active labor. This chick had already gone through active labor. She was an anomaly, actually. You know who I'm talking about. You know. But anyway, yeah, it's really, really interesting. But you kind of go with the flows. And I mean, the more experience that you have, the more understanding you can have of like what position a mom is in, and what needs to be implemented and all of that, But yeah. It's pretty crazy.
It's incredible. Like, I'm obsessed with birth stories. I know there's other people that are crazy like me that just can't get enough. Like, I am like, okay, so like there's a general pattern that everybody follows. Like, certain things kind of have to happen. Like, like the baby has to move through certain positions
Right.
and whatever. There's like certain checkpoints that you're like, okay, more or less you can sort of count on this happening.
Sure.
But the amount of variation in everybody's birth stories is endlessly fascinating to me. Like, what works for one person is not going to work for another, and it's okay. And so my thing is, like, the reason I'm doing this whole podcast, and the reason that I have a blog, and the reason I'm talking about any of this stuff at all, is I'm like, you need to just be open to different ideas and find the ones that work for you.
That's right.
Like, for some people, it's, I don't want anybody. I just want me and my husband and maybe a midwife in the other room in case something is needed. And I'm like, hey, if that works for you,
That's great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I want my kids there. I don't want my kids there.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, you need to figure out your needs.
Right.
What is it that's going to ultimately, at the end of the day, bring you the most oxytocin? For
Right.
me, having my then 2-year-old rubbing my legs, toward the end, like, he was asleep for the first 2 hours of labor, and then he was only awake for the last 2.
Wow.
Which was intense,
Yeah.
but we had prepared him. We had watched some videos. I explained to him what was happening. Like, mama's totally okay.
Yes.
The baby that's in the belly has to come out, and I have to work
So
really,
cool.
really hard. And so my husband was like, you should rub her back. When she has a contraction, rub her back.
Yeah.
And he would come over and he would pet my head and he'd rub my shoulder and talk about oxytocin.
Yes.
Like,
Oh,
when your 2-year-old is loving on you like that, there's just nothing like that in the world, right?
Yes.
Literally a
I know, me too. So cute. Oh, yeah.
And but maybe not everybody is like that. For some
Right.
people, maybe the idea of having their 2-year-old in the room is more stressful.
Sure.
And they feel like they need to be taking care of them. And so maybe it's better that the kid is with, a grandparent or something in that scenario.
Right.
You know yourself better than anybody else does, and your husband knows you second best, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, that's like one of the first things that I go over, actually. One of the questions that I pose during my phone consultations when I'm meeting a mom for the first time. I'm like, great. What's your like most ideal scene for this delivery? Okay, good. Who's going to be there? Great. So this is your second time. Okay. So your mother-in-law is going to take care of your kid. Are they going to be in the house that you're delivering? Because the thing about it is, what is the most appealing thing about hospital versus home? It's the environment. It's being in a familiar and trusted space where you are most comfortable. You can be most unconventional as you want or not, or whatever it may be, right? However, if you have individuals that are in your space that you're like, I don't want them to hear me vocalize. I don't want whatever it may be. That is
I
a
don't want
distracting
you to
point.
see my butt. You might get naked.
Exactly.
It's hard to push a baby out when you're not naked.
That's right. Exactly. So these are the things that I like to bring up with couples, right? And here's the thing too. You have negative people in your life. Everybody does to a degree, right? And we try hopefully arm's length away, right? But some we can't. So for instance, I did have one mom who I had posed that question. Like, is there anybody that's in your life? This is another question I ask. Is there anybody in your life that thinks negatively about your decision to deliver at home? Oh, no. Are you sure? Is there anybody there that is like, right? So I ended up having a mom like that. She had her mom that just wasn't very nice. And she went to her mom and she's like, yeah, I'm going to deliver naturally. And her mom's like, okay, well, call me when you have your C-section. yucky stuff. Like, dude, yucky stuff. Okay. And that affected her very negatively, unfortunately. It really, really did. And it made things really troubling. So, off the bat, man, before I take on a mom, I'm like, look, here are the negative effects that could occur when you have literally someone with super bad vibes or even little bad vibes. Like, oh, you're going to deliver. You're not going to deliver in a hospital. Oh my God. Right. Some people can look at that like, oh, well, you're just not really educated on it. Some people could look at that like, oh man, maybe it's not a good idea to deliver at home. Maybe I should deliver in the hospital, whatever, and put those negative thoughts there when they're unwanted off the bat, So it is important, man. It is important to really genuinely look at what you are trying to mock up. What is your ideal scene? What are you trying to do and achieve? And have exactly what you want and give no F's if you offend, right?
Yes.
For example,
So this doesn't come naturally. A lot of
right.
women are afraid to offend, which I understand.
Sure.
In many circumstances, I used to be very much this way, where I was a very yes person. Oh, you want me to do this? Sure. You want me to do that? Sure. And I
Right.
couldn't really stand up for myself. And you know, I worked on that a lot throughout my life. And
Yeah.
when it came to my birth, it was I am the boss, and if you can't recognize that, then we're not gonna that's the end of the conversation,
That's right.
basically.
That's right.
And I am very blessed in that I am surrounded by really incredible people. My husband, I switched to a home birth when I was 8 months pregnant. So it was a big change
Wow.
really late in the game. Yeah.
Amazing.
And I married the right guy, because when I called Nick and I was like, I can't do this anymore. We're not gonna do the hospital. We're gonna have a home birth. He was like, great. What do you need from me? And that was his attitude. And I
So
was
cute.
like, couldn't ask for anything. He
So
was like,
great.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You're gonna need to teach me everything.
Good.
I don't know,
My
but
husband
if
was the
you say
same.
so, let's do this.
Yeah. Oh.
And then I told my parents, and I was like, I'm having a home birth and I want you there. My parents are amazing.
Mhm.
I have a podcast episode where they talk about what it was like for them.
I need to see that.
I was born in a hospital in Russia
Wow.
where the husband was not allowed in the hospital.
Wow.
So it was just my mom and the doctor.
Wow.
And because that's just how it was done,
Sure.
30 years ago. Probably, I don't know, now it might be different. But
Yeah.
she tells the story of how, like, she held me up in the window. I was born in January in Russia, so it was like January in Russia, right?
Yeah.
So my dad is downstairs, however 10 stories down, right, or 7, whatever, however many stories down in the road, and he's like looking up, and she's holding up, the baby, like, here's your baby. And that was his first time meeting me, and it was like 7 days or 10 days in the hospital of just her and I, because
Wow.
they wouldn't let her go because of whatever. And so, like, she's like, that's her experience of birth, right?
Wow.
Not
Nuts.
the same.
Yeah, no. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That is
And so
wild.
when I come to her and I'm like, I'm having my baby in my living room and I want you there with me, she was like, oh,
That's amazing.
cool.
Oh my gosh, that's
What?
amazing.
And so I sat down and I made it my responsibility. Like, this is my job to get everybody on board,
Right.
right? I can't just expect everybody to suddenly have all the knowledge and conclusions that I've had, right?
Right.
Like, I was like, this is what I read. I watched The Business of Being Born. I read,
Yeah.
a bunch of books, and I was like, this is why this is a good idea and why the alternative is not.
Exactly.
And everybody was on board, and I was like, great.
Well
Good. I
done.
found myself a midwife. I was like, okay, and you take responsibility for assembling your team of Avengers, your team of
That's right.
superheroes,
That's right.
And anybody who doesn't pass the vibe check,
Out.
like you said, like, don't feel bad about it.
Nope.
You are not
No.
obligated to have anybody there.
Mm-mm.
If your mother-in-law is like, I want to be there, say she's even a midwife. I don't know, like, whatever.
Doesn't
And
matter.
if you are at all stressed or uncomfortable, not even if you have a good relationship, but you
Mhm.
don't feel like you don't feel like you would be okay with her seeing your boobs. I don't know,
Sure.
whatever is
Exactly.
that, you say, I love you and I can't wait for you to meet the baby, but this is between, husband and I, and this is how I want it. And it's
Right.
okay. And I give you permission, and any doula and midwife will give you permission
That's
to
right.
protect the sacred birth space.
Exactly. And I mean, it jumps into the same boat of the production of oxytocin.
Mhm.
You are needing to mock up an environment with whatever makes you comfortable. Dim lighting, like something a very familiar space that makes you very comfortable. You know where everything is, whatever it may be. Like, it makes you feel good that, oh, I don't have to like leave a building to go back home after I have my kid, whatever it may be, right? And in the event that you have something or someone in your space that is causing you stress, causing you anxiety, causing you fear, even if it's a small amount, this is taking your attention away from the focus of delivering your child, and it does affect you. And I go over this also in my education. Like the normal pattern of, like, let's say a hospital birth. Mom's like, oh, my water broke, or whatever it may be, time to go to the hospital. They get to the hospital and maybe they've been having like a set pattern of contractions, and they get to the hospital and it stops. Why? Why does that happen? Why does the production of oxytocin stop? Well, what are you experiencing? Holy crap, this is happening now. Oh man, I'm really stressed out. Is it going to hurt? I don't know. Ah, la, 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 la. You finally get into the environment where you're supposed to deliver this baby, and your labor stops and you're sent home. So there is some science behind that, and it is generally the production of oxytocin. When that stops, labor stops, man. So if you have a stress-free, fear-free, anxiety-free space that it is your ideal to deliver in, we got a lot of production of oxytocin potentially, you know? So it highly, highly contributes in terms of the individuals that you have in your space while you deliver and your environment. So yeah, you're looking at it like, okay, one of the things that I ask while I'm doing birth planning is, cool, how many Amazon packages do you have delivered? Right? It's like, here's a mom
Never
in
thought of
labor.
that.
She's in labor and ding dong, it's Amazon. Bam, 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 UPS, whatever it may be. And it's like, boom, her attention is off track. Who is that? What's going on? Who knows, you know? So that's one of the things that I address. Like, I have a sign. It says, do not disturb, do not knock, do not ring the bell, privacy, please. And it's like,
Yeah.
literally, it's huge. I can't even put it in the screen right now. It's huge. And it's in all red and black. It's like, don't touch this door. You know what I mean? So I bring that with
Love
me, right? But we're looking at, let's keep her focused. Let's have her environment exactly how she wants and everything so she can do the do, man, you know? But yeah, it's very interesting. And as opposed to obviously in a hospital, you've got shift change, you've got nurses left and right. Maybe you make friends with the nurse. Absolutely. I've had hospital births that are like, these nurses are amazing, man. I had one nurse that literally jumped in with me. She's like, every position in the book, let's go. And she just worked with me. She was doulaing with me. And I'm like, who are you? I'm crying. You're crying. I'm crying, you know?
I love it.
Really beautiful. And unfortunately, I've met nurses that have forgotten their purpose in their profession, you know?
And the thing in the hospital, the thing that sucks is it's the luck of the draw.
Yes.
You know, like with a home birth and I imagine birthing centers too, you get to establish a relationship with your provider ahead of time,
Yes.
which is invaluable.
I can
And
say
in the
actually
hospital,
with a birth center, at least one of the birth centers that was located here, it closed now. It's called Breath of Life. They had X amount of midwives that were on post, and basically whoever was on post when you showed up, that's what you got. So there is
yeah,
that even with a birthing center. It's like you don't know
yeah.
which midwife you're gonna get, you know? So anyway,
And you hope for the best. There are wonderful people out there. Like
yeah.
you said, like there are labor and delivery nurses that I've met that are just angelic beings as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned, you know?
Incredible. Yes.
But there are some people who are just there for a paycheck, you know, like with anything. I mean,
Yes.
any profession, you have your good and your bad and you're in between.
Right.
And you only want the best.
That's
So,
right.
you
Yeah,
know.
and at least the last hospital birth that I did was at Morton Plant Hospital here in Florida, and I was incredibly surprised. These nurses were fantastic, and the midwives that were on post were fantastic. And I cried with a couple of them. I mean, it was a long labor. It was a 36-hour labor. Yeah, buddy. We had a little difficulties in terms of positioning of the baby, but I mean, one of those nurses that was on, shift change, whatever it may be, on her shift, she jumped in there right with me. And she was just like rooting and cheerleading and like, let's go. And I've heard other arbitrary things like, I had a friend that was in labor that the nurse came in and goes, okay, the mom next door is in labor too. And now it's a race. Let's see who gets there first. And it's like, what the heck is that? What is this weirdness?
That's very
So,
weird.
I mean, obviously, uh, I love it when the nurses see the person in front of them. That's what I'm doing. That's what I see. And not every mom is the same. And not every mom is going to need the same care. Not every mom is going to need coaching. Some moms will need no coaching. And I'm going to be like, why did you hire me? you know?
Mhm.
But more power to you because you don't need my coaching. You have your husband to just be there and he does everything right and he does it for you and it helps you get through, But many, many variables. But I really feel like just being personable and like seeing the person in front of you is like super invaluable. Don't even know
I
how to
love
put it,
that. No, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Well, we have just a few minutes here to sort of do closing thoughts and wrap
Went
up.
by so
I feel like
fast.
we could I know every single time. I
Crazy.
feel like we could just go on for hours. Maybe we'll do another episode in the future where we'll like deep dive into some
Yeah.
specific something. I don't know. We'll talk about
Great. I would love it.
something.
I would love to.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds awesome. So yeah, so I don't know, any closing thoughts or advice, or you want to, tell people how they can find you?
Yeah, man. I mean, probably my strongest advice is educate yourself. Just educate yourself. And it doesn't even matter. Like, yeah, we're here talking about labor and delivery and pregnancy and yada, yada, but like, it's really about any subject. If you're going to take on any subject or do anything, educate yourself. Find the basics, like, understand it. And in terms of labor and delivery in a female body, like, a female body is completely and utterly, perfectly designed to do the bearing of children, to bear children. And to have that type of certainty, one has to have the knowledge so they can have the responsibility and be in control. So you don't have to do my education. You can if you want. You can contact me, but find some education. And I highly suggest looking into May Gaskin, Penny Simkin, and the Bradley method because the data contained in these books from these guys is just absolutely invaluable to delivery and labor.
Amazing.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. So people can find you on
Uh,
Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah. Facebook, you could just look me up, Taylor Mack. You can also call me or text me, whatever you want. My number is
Yeah,
yeah.
if somebody wants to reach out, I'm happy to refer people over to
Great.
you. I can give out your number if
Heck yeah.
somebody's in what areas do you serve? Like what's your location?
Honestly, I mean, I'm located personally in Clearwater, but I mean, I do Largo and I'll do some of Pasco, I'll do Pinellas, all of Pinellas, basically anywhere. You give me a
Awesome.
call. Yeah.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. The hour flew by as always.
It did.
We'll have you back on again soon, but I truly appreciate. I think we gave some pretty valuable
Yeah.
information here
It
today.
was just really fun. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I would absolutely love to do this again.
Awesome.
Yay.
All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next
Bye,
time.
guys. Bye.